Hello again, it's Matthew from Matthew North Music. Today's video is a music video, as in a music format. Now, I've done a few videos in the past on here about various records, various releases, pressing qualities and stuff. But today's video is going to be about a new type of record, and it's inside here. Now, it's not a coloured vinyl, it's not a picture disc, it's nothing like that. It's actually the material that the record's made from. Let me explain. When you make a record, there's a lump of molten plastic pellets, and the labels are on either side, and they're stuck inside a press, and this metal press comes down with these two cut out metal negatives of the record. It goes splat like that, and out comes a record. And that's how records are made. Now, what's in here is made a bit differently because it's using a process called injection moulding. Now, with this, from what I understand, and it's a very new process, and I've probably not got this completely right, but the idea is that you have these bits of polycarbonate plastic of some description, and they attach themselves to the metal disc, and all the bits sink into the disc with this injection mold process, and so it then comes out and it's like a record. And the thing about this process is it's supposed to use a lot less energy because you're not heating everything up like you do heating up pellets to make normal records. And secondly, because the way it's done, every bit of plastic should sink right into the groove of the metal plate, and thus you should get a better sounding record because it's had maximum ability to get into the plate. Now, I don't know whether this works or not, but I'm going to find out. So this is a polycarbonate made record. It was pressed in the Netherlands, which is where this process has been done, and there are some videos on the internet on how this is done that you can take a look on, but it's a fairly new process. So we're going to open this record, I'm going to play a bit of it, and then we're going to look at it on the computer and compare it to a digital version of the same album, and we're just going to see kind of what it looks like. Obviously I can't play any of this because I don't own the copyright, but it should be an interesting thing to look at anyway. And from Dutch Music Works, and this is from a label called Black Lake. Now that might give you an idea who this album's by. Certainly if you follow me on my other social media, you know there's certain artists that I'm quite often posting about, and this is one of them. And get this open. Yeah, I know I shouldn't do that really to open records in case I damage the cover, but I've done it enough that I think I can get away with it. Okay, here we go. Inside here should be this, and right, there should be a signed postcard, but there isn't any. Oh well, never mind. Do I care? No. And it's the new album by Damian Wilson. I've actually had this quite a while, and I've wanted to do a video about this, and I've just not got around to doing it until today. So this is the LP cover, and yeah, great artwork on there as always. And this is the polycarbonate record, and it does feel different. It does feel different to a normal LP, and yeah, it does. It's physically thicker. Whether it doesn't feel necessarily heavier, but it certainly feels a lot thicker. It's quite a strange experience actually touching an album like this. Anyhow, there's the labels are sort of, I think the label's just glued on actually. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's a really weird feeling. You almost feel like it's two bits of plastic glued together actually. Yeah. In fact, I think that's what it is. I think it is actually two bits of plastic glued together. Well, I've never seen an album like that before, but apparently it takes 60% rather less energy. And I'm going to pop it on my turntable I'm going to record a bit of one of the tracks. In fact, I'm going to do the single, I think, Hard to Lose Faith, because I know that's a track with lots of good dynamics. And then I'm going to compare it to the digital download and see what it looks like. As I'm transferring the record, it's playing nice and flat, and I'm not getting any clicks and bumps, which is always a good sign. So anyway, let's look at what we find here. Now, this is the recording I made of the track, and here is the join between the two tracks. I'm just going to zoom in, because this is the sort of silent passage between the two tracks, and there's no spikes, there's no peaks, there's no bumps. It's actually very quiet, which is a nice thing to see, because with any record, if you've got crackles in between the tracks, you know it's not a very good pressing. And there's a tiny little bit more rumble on that side than this side, but looking at it, it seems pretty good. And if we look at the waveform, we can see there's lots of dynamics here. Nothing's peaking too loud. Now, just for reference, I'm going to show you the CD version. And you can see here it's much louder. It's at full welly, which is kind of how modern CDs are mastered. You know, the loud bits are very loud. Personally, I'd say that's a little bit too loud for my tastes, but you know, it sounds all right. So, you know, you can't moan at that. Now, the interesting thing is if we look at the spectral frequency display. Now here, this is the sort of the bandwidth, if you like, of the track, and where we got bright color, that's where we've got loudness at that frequency. And you can see the frequency goes all the way right up to the top, well above 20 kilohertz. So, you know, we've still got quite loud at sort of 17, 18K, which is, you know, above what most people, certainly of my age, can hear. But it goes all the way to the top. On the quieter section, it's not quite at the top, but then it's not as loud either. So, you know, we're seeing a full uncompressed CD, and that's exactly what you'd expect to find. If we now go to the vinyl version, here's our vinyl track, and we change that to spectral frequency display. Let's see what we get. If we look here, then we've got less information. This is more or less sort of the noise floor. So most of our information here, well, actually it's louder on this side. So we're going up to about 14, 15K there, which is kind of what you expect on a vinyl record, really. LPs generally don't go much higher, especially if they're quite a long LP, because of the amount of space that you can fit onto the plastic. Looking closer up, it is less than you would have on the album, but then you kind of expect that because it's an LP. They don't have the same bandwidth that a CD has, and so getting up to sort of 15K or thereabouts, you know, that's kind of what you expect. And with a new technology, that's not bad, I would say. It's a new process. You're getting up to what most people can hear. I must admit, when I did play the LP, it did sound a little bit better turning the treble up a little bit. But, you know, that's a small thing. But what is nice about it is the way it's been mastered, in that it's not as compressed, it's not as loud. So it sounds a little bit more like how you'd hear it out the studio before it was mastered for CD. Now, when I picked this record up, it kind of felt like something not quite like a record. And it suddenly occurred to me what it felt like. It actually felt like I was holding a laser disc. And I was doing some more research on these things, and it is kind of based on the technology of how they made laser discs that they've made these records. So they're actually using a nearly 50-year-old technology to bring something else into the future. So it's quite an interesting idea, really. Now, is this the future of vinyl? And my first thoughts are it could well be. Certainly if it's quicker to produce and it doesn't you know, use up as much energy. That's always a good thing. My only reservation is the two slices of plastic stuck together. Whether that will work long term. And I do wonder if they can only make these single-sided, if it would be better if you had two separate discs rather than them stuck together. But I think it's great to have something new. This has got to be one of the first innovations in record manufacture that we've had for a long time. I mean, we've had the sort of polycarbonate lathe cut records where it's effectively like a record player in reverse, and you have the blank plastic disc and then you have a cutting head that cuts into the record. And these have been done by many artists for short-term runs, but this is actually a new process for making records on a large scale. And like I say, it's the sound quality, I'd say, is maybe 80% of what a normal album is, if I'm being brutally honest. It's not perfect yet, but this is one of the first records ever made in this format. So all I can say is I think it's not going to be long before these will sound as good as normal pressed records, if not better. They're certainly very quiet, and that's great, because a lot of modern records, you know, you get snap, crackle and pop all the way through as soon as you take them out the cover. I mean, that George Harrison box set that I reviewed a while back, that had crackle in between tracks. This doesn't. This is absolutely quiet. So I think this could be something really special, and certainly musically, you know, this album's great. So I think you're gonna, you know, look him up. I'm gonna put a link to where you can buy this down below, and get a copy and see what you think. Certainly, you know, as I said, innovation is always good, and it's great to hear an album in a new format, and yeah, works well. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.